President, colleagues, Peter Shreve, ISLE of Wight Secretary. The founder of the Zen school and Buddhist monk, Kuei Nun, overheard two monks arguing about the temple flag waving in the wind. One said, "The flag moves." The other, "No, the wind moves." They argued loudly but couldn't agree. Kuei Nun spoke, "Gentlemen, it's not the wind that moves, and it's not the flag that moves. It's the mind that moves. If a member of staff is assaulted and no one reports it, has it happened? The employer claims no, the employee yes, and organisations struggle to act. In my experience, staff are often reluctant to report violence. Some believe it's part of the job, and being assaulted is accepted and expected. Some feel reporting is not worthwhile, as there are no consequences, or management is reluctant to act. How are events reported? In my LA, staff fill in a form, it's put on a computer and reviewed by the LA as part of the big picture. In a non-LA school, it's a question of physician heal thyself. The data either goes on a shelf or is sent off island to the MAT HQ to be ignored and gather dust. I requested data from one such school. The principal refused to share business-sensitive data. He said I could put in a freedom of information request, and then looked at me with a wry smile. Chances are it wouldn't be shared anyway. In 2016, after an ATL survey, our own Mary Bowstead said, "It is shocking that more than 43% of education professionals have had to deal with physical violence from a pupil in the last year. Recent figures show violent assaults have surged by 24% over the last 5 years. I am personally aware of objects being thrown, heavy objects being slammed into bodies, students with drug issues spitting at staff, car brakes being cut, and a back windscreen being smashed on a member's home drive. A primary head teacher recently told me a member shouldn't return to work after their summer operation, as the nature of the new pupil intake in a primary school had led to restraint training for all staff. And even though most of their time would be spent in an office, it would be extremely prudent if they didn't return for some time. Last year, I requested data from the very supportive LA. They requested data in turn from all schools. Only 6 reported. One declared over 150 incidents in a 3-month period, which enabled all concerned to work together to try and manage the situation. What we're calling for is educational glasnost, increased openness and transparency. We're calling for well-understood procedures where all staff report all violent incidents, which are always recorded as safeguarding issues. We're calling for a system where all institutions report centrally, but at a local level. We're calling for a reverse of austerity. Children now receive less support than they used to. Staff have no time whatsoever to deal with issues, hence an increase in anxious students lashing out. If a tree falls in the forest and no one hears it, does it make a sound? If a member of staff is assaulted and no one reports it, did it happen? This motion is a small attempt to improve things, but regrettably, it will probably need legislation to succeed. Nevertheless, I move.
President, conference. I work as a science technician in a large academy on the Isle of Wight. I second this motion. A few months ago, during break time, I encountered a large group of Key Stage 3 students in the corridor. When they had reached me, one student intentionally pushed another student towards me and made me trip. Luckily, I was not delivering a tray with acid to the lab, which is not uncommon. In another work incident, I have also been mock headbutted. You may say that these are only minor examples of the kind of aggression and violence that has increasingly found its way into our schools. There are far more shocking cases of violence against school staff, including fatalities. Support staff are an easy target because they are often viewed as less important. In my case, I must admit I was not particularly shaken. Low-level aggression of this kind has become rather commonplace. What did concern me, though, was what I did, or rather didn't do afterwards. Did I report these incidents to our senior leadership team, or anybody else for that matter? No, I did not. Why not? Management always responds with the same question. Can you identify the student? I could not, and I'm rather unlikely to in the future. I rarely work in a classroom. Apart from gender and size, students look very much the same to me in their uniform, and they know it. Therefore, if I cannot name the student or recognize them, no further action can be taken by leadership. A situation probably repeated across all teaching establishments. In these austere times, bad publicity is likely to be suppressed in the corrosive environment of league tables and competition for bums on seats. Even if there are any aggression figures actually collected, the real scale is probably hidden due to underreporting. In really shocking cases, the offending student is likely to be excluded, often to return to continue the behaviour. Or they are transferred to a different local organisation with little background information or the genuine means to support this individual. The challenge is pushed elsewhere without a solution. Local communication and collaboration is hampered by fragmented establishments controlled off-island. In conclusion, following the arguments of the proposer, I urge you to support.
Perfect, thank you, Karen. To the vote, 1 for, 2 against. Fantastic, thank you, conference.